Welcome to the Green Rooms. We're so happy you're here. This is the text on screen. There is a brick wall and a door above the door. It says stage door. Beyond the door is a hazy group of clouds slowly going past the door. And at the bottom is a green on what possibly would be the sidewalk in the bottom part of the brick wall. Welcome to this production of, or this incarnation of the Folda Festival 2020. My name is Kat Germain. I'll be your audio describer for this presentation. And please note this is an improvised description.
By asking Georgina Riel, who's a member of the Batchewana First Nations of the Ojibways and Sault Ste. Marie, the Bawanting people of the Rapids. It's located along Lake Superior, to step us forward into our evening or afternoon, or for some of you morning, in the Green Rooms. Georgina currently lives with her husband and two sons in Kingston. That's Cataraqui, or the gathering place, which is situated next to Lake Ontario, Canada. She's an educational consultant. She's an artist. She's an elder, traditional hand drummer, singer, and dancer.
That was Sarah Garden Stanley speaking.
And she's passionate about the arts. To have Georgina here to begin us tonight, this afternoon, or tomorrow morning is a terrific, terrific pleasure. We're so glad she could be here. What we would say is that this is a big, massive experiment. You're here to help us be part of it. And we're still just trying to get Winnipeg into our view. And we're also trying to bring out Georgina into your view. So once again, it gives me great pleasure to welcome Georgina Riel to get the proceedings off to a terrific start. Thanks very much.
Miigwech, thank you for that introduction. So before I do a traditional opening, I'm going to be doing what I do as an Ojibwe person, which is doing my smudging for my ceremony. So what I'm holding here is my traditional medicines and my smudge bowl that I use and my eagle feather. And I always do this before I speak in a good way because I want clarity and I want honesty to be delivered. And I want all of us to come together in a good way.
She waves an eagle feather over smoke.
I always make sure that when I always smudge my eyes so I can see in a good way, my mouth so I can speak in a good way.
She covers her eyes and her mouth.
My ears so I can hear in a good way, and my heart so I can be here in a good way. So
wafting the smoke towards her.
So it is in my duty to always speak in my language, whether we know multiple words or just one word in our language. And the reason why we do that is because we always must introduce ourselves to our ancestors. This way that they can recognize who we are. So I'm always very grateful for this opportunity to share my ways and to greet people in a positive way. So I want to make sure that I acknowledge thanks to all of the hosts, all of the partners that have put on this amazing event, and all of the performers and leaders who are going to be speaking during the next 3 days. So we gather here in Cataraqui, which we know is the city of Kingston. And this place is very unique because it's a gathering place. So this was the place where the original caretakers of the land, which are the Mississauga of the Ojibways and the Huron-Wendat, come together along with the Haudenosaunee people through the treaty, which we call Dish with One Spoon. And we come together to ensure unity, that everybody keeps a healthy and strong community. And that's what the city of Kingston represents. And they represent that within the arts. We have a very strong art community here. And it's been absolutely wonderful for my time during my 18 years of living here is seeing the strength that this city provides for artists, whether you are an artist, performer, or an artisan. So as you know, our time here is very unique as we gather. We know that Mother Earth is healing. We know that Mother Earth has been sick as to why we're coming together during COVID time. And as we come here as artists and performers, We're going to use that energy. We're going to use that talent that everybody has, whether it's in performance or in words, to use this as an opportunity for us to come together to heal as people, but also to heal the lands, to heal the skies and heal the waters. Because regardless of where we are living, we are all interconnected based on the lands and the waters. So I welcome everybody who is here virtually to take in that wonderful positive energy that the performers and the leaders will be sharing, and use that in a good way, to use that as a healing method for all of us together. So I want to say miigwech, which means thank you in my language, and bamapi, which means until later, when we meet again, when we're doing the closing portion of this event. Thank you again to everybody who has invited me to be here. Take care and be well. Miigwech.
She reaches to the left.
Thank you so much, Georgina. This was wonderful. And I feel like it starts us in a very good way.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I'm situated in Kingston, on the same land where Georgina is today. And before the pandemic, Chantal and I imagined that we would be standing together here on this land and sharing our opening remarks with all of the 8 cities. Chantal would travel from New York City, where she lives, and we were excited to make the city of Kingston the creative hub that connected all the other cities. And we're still doing that. I'm actually right now by Lake Ontario, sitting at a desk, and Chantal is just outside of New York City, sitting at a desk. And many of you are obviously sitting in your homes. Our goal, though, early on was that we would meet in 8 different cities and bring them all together. So I just want to take a moment before we move into the deeper part of it tonight to talk about the support that we received from a lot of different places where we imagined maybe we would be. We had so much support from the Arts House in Melbourne, Massey University in Wellington, the University of British Columbia, the Only Animal Theatre, the Royal Manitoba Theatre Company, and the University of Winnipeg, Rainbow Stage, York University, Playwrights Workshop Montreal, Concordia University, Centre Phi, Dalhousie University, Ross Creek, and in England, the Royal Court, the Gate, and the Yard Theatre, the University of Westminster, and Invisible Flock. We also worked with the Stratford Chef School, where students prepared locally sourced menus for the 60 or so people we imagined gathering in each city. We imagined 8 grounded spaces and everybody else joining from their homes. We did not imagine that we would be in front of the same computer screens we were in front of on March 17th, talking to you now. With the help of so many people, most notably our partners at FOLDA, HowlRound, the National Theatre School, and most especially the Canada Council for the Arts, we've been able to offer this, the Green Rooms. The earth is watching, let's act. And now, a word from the Mayor of Kingston, the Artistic Director of English Theatre, and the CEO at Canada's National Arts Centre. 3 short videos, and we will be back.
Text on screen, welcome to Kingston.
Hey everyone, I'm Brian Patterson, Mayor of Kingston, and it's my great pleasure to be able to join you and welcome all of you participants across Canada, from London and New York, to be a part of the Green Rooms as part of the Cycle Initiative. I want to take a moment to acknowledge the great leadership of the National Arts Centre, bringing scholars and leaders and artists together to focus on the issue of climate change and what we can do to work together to reduce our environmental footprint, to be able to promote sustainability and social justice. And of course, to be able to do all of that in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, to be able to refocus and remind ourselves of the importance of climate change as an issue for our entire world and right here in Kingston. I do want to say that our city is delighted to be able to play host and to be a hub for the initiative over the next few days. I know you're also going to enjoy the great work of Kingston artists like Aaron Ball and Matt Rogalski. So folks, I just want to say thank you again for being a part of this initiative. Again, a big thank you to the National Arts Center for organizing all of this. I trust that you'll have productive time and conversations and collaboration and help to inspire further action on climate change in the days to come.
Hi, my name is Jillian Kiley, and I'm the Artistic Director of English Theatre at the National Arts Center. I'd like to welcome you all. Last year, when I attended our first session on climate change and theatre's responsibility within it, Clayton Thomas Mueller told us that the Athabasca River flows north from Fort McMurray, and he explained the relationship between the incredible damage we're doing to the earth and the disproportionate effect it has on Indigenous people and other marginalized communities. Our mission at the NAC English Theatre is storytelling towards a more compassionate society, and social justice is the necessary lens for these stories. Climate justice is social justice. We're so passionate about providing a platform for this critical conversation, and we're so glad that you're here. Thanks for coming.
Hello everyone. Bonjour tout le monde. Kwe kwe. It's an honor to be speaking to you today from the unceded territory of the Algonquin peoples, where the National Arts Center is located. It's early June as I record this, sitting not far from the banks of a great river, the
Christopher Deacon speaking.
Or the Ottawa River. Lilacs are in full bloom and their perfume hangs heavy in the air. On behalf of the NAC, I want to welcome you all to the Green Rooms. The NAC seeks to play a vital role by convening relevant conversations about urgent issues facing artists and facing our society. During these stressful times, the arts have much to offer all of us. The NAC is proud that our English Theatre Department is leading this extraordinary experiment to explore new ways to create and to adapt to the immense challenges posed by climate change. Now is the time for artists and arts institutions to rethink our practice and programming in order to reduce our environmental impact, promote sustainability and social justice, and invest in the well-being of the planet. I want to thank our co-curators, Sarah Garton-Stanley and Chantal Bilodeau, for their tremendous leadership. I also want to thank our partners, FOLDA, the Canada Council for the Arts, the City of Kingston, the National Theatre School, and HowlRound Theatre Commons for their support. I wish you fruitful discussions and reflections that will help us all determine the actions we can take as individuals and as institutions to do better, to be better, and to create a path forward. Let's act. The world is watching. Thank you.
Sarah and Chantal.
Thank you very much to all of you for those messages, and to all of you as I look out into the live stream to be able to see into your homes. It's a really incredible experience from this vantage point to be able to see out into your homes, but also to say that I'm seeing into your homes probably a minute maybe before or a minute after. I'm speaking to you from the future, I think. And it's also partly to say, I need to repeat again, I'm Sarah Garton-Stanley, and I'm the Associate Artistic Director for English Theatre and the co-curator for this final cycle, The Earth is Watching, Let's Act. And I need to tell you that I have two sets of, I don't need to tell you, as many of you will be able to see, but for everybody to explain that I have two sets of headphones on. One is allowing me to speak to Martin and a number of people who are working behind the scenes to make the shifting possible. And the other is enabling me to speak to you and to know when I'm supposed to be speaking to you. So It's a look. It'll be here for the duration of the cycles. I couldn't figure out anything better. So I hope you enjoy it as much as my ears do right now. And now I just want to turn it over to Chantal, and we're going to do a bit of back and forth just to explain a little bit about the history of the cycles, what we've done with this particular one, and some of the goals that we initially had and where we've gotten to now. So Chantal, do you want to say a few words?
Yeah, so maybe this cycle has been a 2-year project, but maybe before we launch directly into this, you want to give a little bit of a history of what the previous cycles were?
So much. So the previous cycle started when I first went to the National Arts Center in 2013. And I was tasked with coming up with something that could follow in the footsteps of the previous artistic director, Peter Hinton, who developed a sort of dramaturgical look at different questions through sort of the dramaturgical body of work. And he had also been a really strong advocate and producer of a lot of Indigenous work at the National Arts Center. And when Jill Kiley, the artistic director then and now, was hired, she asked me if I would join her and help build with her an approach to continuing to develop a look at some of the pressing questions that were impacting Canadian society and how we make theater. And so the first cycle looked at what became known as the Indigenous body of work. I say became known because we started the look with co-curator Yvette Nolan and associate curator Corey Payette. We started by thinking about a canon, and through a number of conversations and deep listening and considerations, and an offer that was made through the first meeting, it was renamed the Body of Work. And that body of work was a document that grew and grew and grew and came to hold within about a year, about 400 works that were in existence, and that body of work got shared, and there was an incredible explosion of energy and excitement around work that had been there for many years but had never been gathered from the perspective of mainstream respondents in a way that could be that was undeniable. It was amazing. It was all there, and so much incredible work came about as a result of that. And so it was an exciting time. It was an enriching time. And I think it was a time for huge change, both in the Canada at large, but also with respect to how we centered stories at the National Arts Center. And it became really clear that we are the National Arts Center, but we also exist on Turtle Island. And the stories of Indigenous peoples were not being centered at the NAC, and indeed in many theater companies across the country. And so changes began to increase. It would be wrong to make it sound as though we in any way were responsible for those changes, but we were an excited part of moving that work forward. And really, truly, personally, it was very life-changing and incredibly illuminating work, and continues to be. The second cycle followed immediately on its heels, and it was focused on deaf, disability, and mad arts from the perspective of the artists. It was originally approached through a mini Republic of Inclusion, which I created with an artist named Alex Bulmer. And following from that, Cyrus Marcus Ware and I became co-curators for the cycle, and we concluded with a wonderful Republic of Inclusion at the end of it. That cycle had a tremendous impact on the ways in which we at the National Arts Center thought about access, and I think in no small measure had direct impacts on the amount of relaxed performances and the ways in which artists began to be more centered in the building of work, and how formally very independent, structured, and institutionalized thinkers, such as us at the National Arts Center, began to consider what it means to be more interdependent and to consider how we can work differently within these massive institutional structures. Each cycle has been an enormous dramaturgical investigation, which is to say, looking at how society works and how it impacts what we do as theater makers and the limitations and the potential that exists there. Each has changed me profoundly, and I believe most of the people involved with the cycles quite deeply and profoundly. The final cycle, here we are. It felt to me like there was no larger umbrella under which to examine the questions of the planet and how we will sustain life on this planet, how we as theater makers can contribute and can ask questions about that. So I'm going to pass it over to Chantal, and yeah.
Yeah, so this cycle, so Sarah and I started working together 2 years ago, and the first part of this cycle was a gathering at Banff with about 30 people who included leaders and artists from the Canadian theaters, and also presenters and artists from other countries, including the UK and Australia and the United States. And this was a gathering over 3 days, and it was about surfacing information that was relevant and maybe exciting and inspiring for people who work in the Canadian theater to try to understand how we can change our practices, change our physical environment, and try to see what our impact is, and also what our responsibility is in relation to the climate. And after this initial gathering, there was a second part that was planned for exactly now. And of course, these were the days before COVID. And so what was planned, of course, included a big in-person component, which we had to lose at the beginning, mid-March, when everything changed. And this in-person component was to take place in 8 cities, which is why we have these 8 cities represented on the live stream here. And for those of you who are participating, you are with a Zoom call that pertains to one of these cities. And in these 8 cities, there was going to be a retreat about a week long for 8 people in each city. There were going to be 2 artists, 2 scientists, and 2 students, and then 2 coordinators who would work together and explore questions that were specific to that location, but also that were relevant globally. And then when everything shifted, and then at the end of these retreats, then we were going to congregate online here with Folda and have an exchange, and we would learn what had been discussed, and there was going to be presentations by other people. So slightly similar, but also different than what we're doing now. And as part of the shift, we enlisted an advisory committee to help us think through what do we do? What's important to talk about? How do we bring these things together? Because of course, as we have discovered over the past 2 months, how the COVID pandemic has played out is we can see the same inequalities, the same problems. It's just one more symptom that's related to this. It's one more symptom that's highlighting how climate change is affecting everybody, and more so people who are already disadvantaged. So the members of our advisory committee were Sonali McDermott, who is a professor of environmental studies at New York University, Kendra Fangoni from The Only Animal, who is based just outside of Vancouver, Tara Wright, who teaches at Dalhousie and is also teaching in the environmental studies program. Ian Garrett at York University, who is a designer and a guru when it comes to measuring carbon footprint, which we are trying to do with this event to see how it compares to what it would have been like if we had met in person. Clayton Thomas Mueller is an activist out of Winnipeg, and he is very much involved with 350.org. And Anthony Sampson Pike, who is also a theater artist based in London. And several of these people were with us. Actually, almost all of them were with us at Banff. And I think I'm going to pass it to you, Sarah.
Fabulous. We have been learning so much about what it means to try to communicate online. We have met weekly for the last 2 months to try to understand what a connected space might feel like, what it could feel like to gather together when we were working under strictures that made it impossible. Right now, people are taking really brave and courageous measures to, in some instances, gather together to protest. Something we couldn't have even imagined 2 weeks ago, something that we were trying to figure out a way that we could gather in these spaces to be able to feel a sense of a gathering and of an urgency. And so we hope that this, for those people who can't go out into the streets, that this kind of a space could offer an opportunity for many, many people to gather together. It's been such a learning curve. And as I speak to you right now, looking at a reflection of myself with a wall behind me, it's hard to feel all the hope that we have for crossing over to all of you out there. But our hope is that for those of you watching on the live stream, those of you within the cities, that you have a sense of one another, and that we're all trying to come together and to consider these big questions, of which there are so many, and of which, as Ian Garrett, one of the advisors yesterday, was saying, that when we think about, when we're thinking about right now, anti-Black racism and how that is situated at the center of so much of our consciousness, how absolutely connected that and white supremacy are to what is happening to the environment, what is happening to the ways in which we are both honoring and abusing the environment that we are living within. And so we are at a moment, and we're aware that we are at a moment, and we hope that this moment can be a generative and positive part of all the changes that need to be made going forward. So I just want to say a little bit about the order of the next couple of hours. We're have an amazing lineup of incredible people, a fantastic keynote speaker, which I'll let Chantal introduce in a little bit, some music and circus performance, thoughts from a number of artists and activists, and also some time for reflection. We've been able to commission a couple of gorgeous compositions that we hope can offer something to each of you in your own moments, in your own spaces, in your own homes. So I think I'll pass it back to you, Chantal, once more, and then I'll introduce Cyrus.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. I think we're all craving, especially those of us who are in the theater, who are used to being around people all the time, we're all craving this connection. And like Sarah said, it's really hard to just look at yourself on the screen. But we hope that we can create a sense of connection, and definitely for our participants in the Zoom rooms who have a chance to be together a little bit, we hope there's a connection that's being developed there too. We will be here for the next today, and then for the next 2 days after that. And we have what we hope is some exciting programming. But first, we want to start with this amazing artist that Sarah is going to introduce to you.
Thanks so much. And I just got a note about my microphone. Apologies, and I hope this is a little bit better. And also, Chantal, you look great. And in fact, as I look out into the Zoom rooms, you all do. So it's nice. It's really nice. Cyrus Marcus Ware is one of the most gifted artists, thinkers, and activists I know. He's one of the co-editors of the recently released Until We Are Free, Reflections on Black Lives Matter Canada, an illustrator for I Promise, a book for children written by Catherine Hernandez. He's a scholar and a maker of change. Cyrus is also going to be DJing a dance party tomorrow night, but tonight he's here to offer some reflections on this present moment. I'm so excited to welcome Cyrus Marcus Ware.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. I'm joining you today from the southernmost part of Toronto, of Takaranto, in the area of the city that Chief Stacey Laforme of the Mississaugas of the Credit says is unceded territory. So I'm joining you here from unceded territory, the land of the Mississaugas of the Credit. And yes, I mean, environmental racism is very, very real. We are living under the violent systems of white supremacy and race capitalism, and this is fueling the climate crisis here on Turtle Island. There's been a fight for justice for Indigenous and Black people, and this fight is essential to solving the climate crisis. Right now, we're going through this time of tremendous and profound change. You know, the earth is literally shifting under our feet, under our wheels. Every single day when I wake up, I'm seeing new things happening, things like Cosmo magazine writing articles about prison abolition, and I wonder what world I've woken up into. I mean, everything is changing so fast. This is a time of systems change. This is a time of revolution. These are absolutely revolutionary times. And we know that revolution is not a one-time event. Revolution is a process, and it's a process that has definitely begun. The virus also helped to shift our thinking. We were all being asked what kind of world we wanted to emerge into. What kind of post-COVID world did we want to see? You know, many people talked about the virus as a practice run for how we were going to solve climate change if we just reduced our emissions and if we stayed home and acted in different ways. We've also seen tens of thousands of people take to the streets in the wake of this rash of police killings of Black and Indigenous people, and in particular of Black and Indigenous Mad people. The demands of activists are loud and a chorus. They are having us reimagining our world and asking us to think of new ways to solve conflict, to respond to crisis, and to heal harm. These are not separate issues. Fighting for environmental justice is part of fighting for climate justice. Fighting, you know, environmental justice has its roots growing out of BIPOC communities. I'm an activist who cut my teeth getting involved in groups like Friends of Move and the Move organization, which was a Black environmental justice organization that ran throughout the 1970s in Philadelphia. The police state dramatically swept in on the Move family and the Move household, famously bombing their house in May 13th of 1985 and letting 3 city blocks burn as a result. This was an act of war against environmental justice organizing. This was an act of war not only against Black people and Black communities, but against the planet. We are fighting now for the right for all living beings on this planet to get to be free. The Combahee River Collective in the late 1970s wrote a position statement, and in it they said that if we made the world safer for Black women, we would necessarily be making the world safer for all people. I think to update that statement into a 2020 imagining, if we could say that if we made the world safer for Black trans women and for Black trans women with disabilities, we'd be making the world safer for every living being on this planet. And what that would mean would be that all living beings on this planet would get to survive and would get to thrive if we just were able to make the world safer for Black trans women with disabilities. So how do we do this? How do we make this world safer? Well, one of the first things that we can do is to join the chorus of activists who are mobilizing in the streets, who are mobilizing from their beds, who are mobilizing from home, who are calling for an end to policing. They're calling for a disbanding of the police force. They're calling for us to finally finish our ancestors' project of the abolition of slavery, which was an incomplete project and just transferred into the police and prison state. So this is a fight that we're in, that we've been in for the long haul. We want to survive the Anthropocene, but we only want to do this if we're going to emerge into a world that is Black affirming, where there is Indigenous resurgence, where there is a safe supply of drugs, where there is decriminalized sex work, where there is abolition of police and prisons. Because we don't just want to save this planet, we want to reinvent our shared world and build a place where we all get to be free, where we all have self-determination, and where we all get to live our full and embodied lives. So I am so looking forward to what comes from the gathering over the next couple of days, and really excited to be part of a conversation that is bringing, environmental justice and climate change activism together, remembering the important roots of BIPOC resistance and BIPOC activism around climate change, and making the important connections between the police state, the prison state, and the Anthropocene. So all power to the people. Let's get free.
Thank you so much, Cyrus. Amazing, potent, powerful. Thank you. Thank you so much. We are going to take a brief technological pause right now, just so we can get the live stream restarted so that the sound and the video can be running in sync. So I'm going to ask you all to just take a moment. And we're going to take a moment, and we will be right back to restart everything. It should be about 30 seconds. Thank you so much, everybody. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. There we go. Some technical things. I keep wondering if I can catch myself looking good in a moment on this thing, but that's impossible. So if anyone else is trying, you probably look amazing. And I have to take back some of that, knowing that I see you looking amazing. So I probably do too. Our first big technical glitch of the night. Luckily, we were able to hear the incredible and powerful and empowering words of Cyrus Marcus Ware. I'm going to pass it now back to Chantal to introduce the next part of our evening.
Thank you, Sarah. And again, thank you everybody for your patience with the technology. If we were in a room live and actors were performing on stage, this would be the moment where an actor goes up on his line and you watch them try to recover. So I hope we recovered nicely. So to follow up on Cyrus's powerful words, we'd like to offer you a sound piece by American multimedia artist and architectural designer, Jose Rivera. This piece was commissioned specifically for the Green Rooms and is titled, Dear George, You Help Me Be Like Water. It's 10 minutes long, and Jose asked us to tell you this before we play this piece. Dear George, You Help Me Be Like Water is a meditation on cycles and transformation, and imagines creating a space of curiosity and compassion. The piece includes field recordings, guitar, and other found sounds. Feel free to close your eyes, get up, walk around, or write down images, thoughts, or feeling that come to mind. And if you'd like to, you can share them in the chat. So here's Jose's piece.
Text on screen, Dear George, You Help Me Be Like Water, composed by Jose Rivera. music continues to play with the text on screen. And Chantel's at center screen.
And we're back, and thank you, Jose, for this beautiful music. I have listened to it a few times now, and every time it really moves me, but it's also, it really calls me down. So it's a wonderful gift. And now it is my great pleasure to introduce you to our keynote speaker for the Green Rooms, an extremely dynamic and inspiring woman named Ariel Sehekwe Deranger. Ariel is Executive Director and co-founder of Indigenous Climate Action, which is the only Indigenous climate justice organization in Canada. She's also an active member of the UN Indigenous Peoples Forum on Climate Change and a founding member of the Global UN Indigenous Youth Caucus. And perhaps my favorite credits of hers is that she has worked on the International Indigenous Tar Sands campaign, challenging the expansion of Alberta's tar sand. Welcome, Ariel.
Thank you so much for having me here today. So
She speaks from the library.
I have slides, and so we're going to do this whole technology thing while I get started here. There we go. So first off, thank you so much for having me. I'd love to acknowledge the opening with Georgina, so thank you so much. So, Iklanete, Dene Sotlaneta, Ariel Ekwe, Hushe, Deranger, Betsy, and Hasli. My name is Ariel Ekwe Deranger, and in my language, my name, in Dene Sotlane, my name means Thunder Woman. I'm a member of the Athabasca Chipewyan First Nation, or the Kaitale Dene Sotlane peoples, which in Dene means people of the willow. And this gives life and recognition to the lands that we have occupied for time immemorial. Dene, who we are as people, the word actually means to flow from the land. And we are intrinsically linked and connected to the natural world. We are one and the same. I am the willow, and the willow is me. The land is more than just a place for Indigenous folks. It is where I was nurtured and nourished as a child. It spoke to me through the wind, the babbling brooks, rivers, streams, the forests, the medicines we picked, the animals we tracked, hunted, trapped, fished, and harvested, and through the stories of our ancestors. Many of these stories were delivered via the land, the air, the earth, and all of our relatives. We are all related is a phrase that's often spoken by our people, and it's not limited just to our human relatives, but includes the winged ones, the four-legged, the ones that swim, and each living organism on Mother Earth, to the air we breathe, the rocks, mountains, the moon, and the stars. And this is passed down through Indigenous knowledge. And Indigenous
feather in a
knowledge
bowl.
systems are the drivers of our community, and they're passed down through experiential learning and storytelling. And it helps to bind us to the collective knowledge and experiences of all of our relations. This collective identity is built into the values and beliefs of our community. And it has become so divergent from the ideological values of the current colonial, patriarchal, hyper-individual, capitalistic systems that we currently live under. This is from the Dehcho First Nations, and this is the Dene Principles that really talks about the collective nature in which we live. This collective identity is not unique to my own community, but is representative of the millions of Indigenous peoples that call this planet home. There are
indicating Indigenous communities.
370 million Indigenous peoples worldwide, representing approximately 5% of the global population. We belong to over 5,000 distinct groups in 90 different countries, and this represents every region of the world. What gets really interesting is that Indigenous peoples use and occupy somewhere between 22 to 64% of the land surface for our subsistence and cultural lifestyles. This is versus 3% of the land is utilized for urban centers where most of humanity lives. What becomes really interesting is that 80% of the world's global biodiversity is within the traditional territories of Indigenous peoples, and 85% of the world's protected and conservation areas is within or adjacent to Indigenous lands and territories. This is not a coincidence. It comes from the very nature of who we are. As I said, Dene means to flow from the land. We are the land. And Indigenous peoples are not just protecting the biodiversity of the planet, but these areas overlap with hundreds of gigatons of carbon sinks that are critical to keeping intact for climate stabilization. The unique values of our communities determine everything from how we manage our lands and resources to how we govern our communities, educate our youth, and take care of our elders. While Indigenous peoples have the same rights as everyone as outlined in the UN Declaration of Human Rights, the UN Declaration of Human Rights was created before Indigenous peoples even had personhood across most of the planet. And it upholds the unique individual rights and does not acknowledge collective rights. The UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples recognizes and affirms collective rights. And it also addresses the ongoing legacy and impacts of colonization and the unique positions that First Peoples have in society. It took almost over 20 years of lobbying and negotiations at the UN level to come to this agreement, and it wasn't adopted until 2007. It does provide the framework for minimum standards to ensure that our cultures, languages, laws, customs, and rights are protected and included in decision-making process as they become one of the most critical documents for Indigenous peoples. However, the history of so-called Canada and the United States alike is rooted in a history of settler colonialism, rooted in white supremacy, African slavery, and policies supported by the church and state of genocide and land theft. These systems attempted to demonize, devalue, and extinguish Indigenous peoples' languages, political and cultural structures, ideological perspectives, and way of life. The European colonists came to this land with a drive of conquest to reap the benefits of this land, and they did this with violence and a goal to consume this world. Tens of millions of people and animal life were extinguished for personal wealth and power, justified wholly in the name of progress and domination. So here we are in this world, and they didn't just do this, like physical life wasn't just lost, but these plunderings came with these ideas that demonized and devalued the ideological perspectives of Indigenous peoples, that we are in fact interdependent with the natural world. They tried to sever that, and that this planet is in fact our mother. It also gave way to the subjugation of women, and moreover, the loss of culture and identity, ceremony, and the place of women in Indigenous societies, and replaced these systems with ones rooted in patriarchy, capitalism, hyper-individuality, and essentially a system of cannibalism to consume everything. A place where progress looks like taking all that you can and gaining as much power as you can. All of this with the end goal of erasing Indigenous peoples from the land, erasing the language of the trees, the water, the air. But we've all been led to believe that's a different story here. We've all been led to believe that treaties were created to share the land. The treaty making process is unique to Canada because the British Crown agreed that they would not take up any land without treaty, setting this country apart from their neighboring United States where violent wars were waged. However, large tracts of this country remain untreated, putting into question colonial systems that society at large has bought into. All the areas in yellow in this map
shows the treaties of Canada
are unceded territories and should be under the jurisdiction of Original peoples. I also want to note, just because treaties were signed does not mean that we ceded or released the lands to our colonial partners. I come from Treaty 8 territory, located in northern Alberta. This treaty territory covers roughly 841,000 square kilometers of land and encompasses parts of northern Alberta, northwest Saskatchewan, Northwest Territories, and BC, making it the largest treaty history in the country. Yet my people remain the last to be consulted on what happens in our lands and territories, and our communities continue to battle against poverty, unemployment, and systemic racism. Almost all aspects of treaty agreements have been broken over and over again by the colonizers of this land. However, this image provides a stark contrast to the intent of treaty and the reality. Throughout time, our treaties have been degraded to simply the lands recognized as reserves, which actually only account for 0.2% of the lands in this country. The other 99.8% is considered crown land and is under the control of settler colonial society, leaving many of our communities disempowered and disconnected from our places of origin. And what has happened when the lands and waterways, our relatives, our places of origin, have been put into the hands and control of people who came here simply to achieve individual power and wealth and erase those connected to the land? It's things like this: the Alberta tar sands, the largest industrial project on earth happening upstream from my own community. This colonial ideology has become so pervasive and has permeated dominant culture so that anyone that challenges this form of progress is simply just anti-development. Despite the warnings from Indigenous peoples that these types of projects, and I just want to say tar sands is just a microcosm of many mega projects happening across the world that are destroying the land. And yet we continue to raise the alarm, and these projects continue to grow and grow and grow, modeling capitalist systems of infinite growth on a finite planet. This isn't just about, and these projects have no regard for my people, our rights, and moreover, our relatives. These are the victims of this abuse of our lands and territory. And this isn't just simply about our people not being able to hunt, fish, and trap where it's been degraded. You know, I'm no stranger to those that retort to our challenges of these projects with, why don't you just go buy your groceries in the store like the rest of us? This destruction to our lands and territories affects all aspects of our mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. It doesn't just affect the land, it affects everything about who we are. Dene Sotlane, Kaitale Dene Sotlane, I am the willow is me. So centuries of abuse to the land has culminated to the current climate crisis. Global CO2 emissions rise every year, sprung forward by the blind acceptance of the status quo that this is just the way things are. So humanity is walking toward the edge of extinction. Those of us that see the plunging cliff sides are pleading with those people to stop this mindless march. Sadly, even those of us that are trying to stop this exodus become complicit and taking steps in the same direction to our own end. And we just keep on building,
increase in carbon
keep on
dioxide.
destroying systems that fed us,
Canada,
nourished us, and keep us alive. The anthropogenic footprint just keeps marching forward, and we are told there is no other way.
The bottom
Forest
of Canada,
fires, floods,
red.
drought, rising
fires.
coastal lines, famine, loss of life plague the planet. And those most deeply impacted by those changes are those most deeply connected to the lands, not just for food and shelter, but those connected by relationship and by languages that were lost and stolen from our communities via colonial systems of white supremacy, capitalism, and greed. Climate change poses threats and dangers to the survival of Indigenous communities worldwide, even though we contribute the least to greenhouse gas emissions. Indigenous peoples are vital to our ecosystems and our lands and territories, and we actually enhance the resiliency of these ecosystems. There have been countless reports to support this. And in addition, we actually interpret, react, and come up with ideas and draw on our Indigenous knowledge and modern technology to come up with solutions to combat climate change that society at large could replicate if we would just listen. The earth is out of balance. We are out of balance with ourselves and with our mother. In order to address the climate crisis, we must restore our relationship with Mother Earth and with each other and address this imbalance in all aspects of our life. So you would think things couldn't get much worse. We're in this massive climate crisis, racism exists, but here we are, 2020, battling, systems of colonialism that bred climate change, and bam, global health pandemic emerges and shakes the planet to the core. There are days that I'm completely at a loss as to how this tiny little virus could be louder than any campaign I've ever been a part of, and really demonstrating the power of Mother Earth. Some scientists and biologists are suggesting that the current climate crisis and unstable models of capitalism and globalization have lent to the worsening and precipitating the current global pandemic, a theory that I'm actually now partial to believing is very accurate. One thing has become clear. We are very, very poor as a species at taking action before a crisis emerges. And even then, we struggle to believe that it's real. Just like the climate crisis, there have been warnings for years about an impending panic, yet nothing was done. Many people stated that this pandemic has brought humanity closer together, and countries are working together, and this is so great. Making comments like we're all in the same boat, it's really highlighting this. The reality is we're all just in the same storm. Not all of us even have a boat to weather this storm. As Indigenous peoples, the impacts have been much worse. We are witnessing in real time in the Navajo Nation, my Dene relatives, literally I'm related to them, they're the Dene of the South or the Dene of the North, are experiencing some of the highest rates of COVID on the continent. But long before COVID, our people had been experiencing poor access to healthcare, higher rates of disease and infection, lack of access to essential services, sanitation, adequate housing, clean water. In addition, we have faced a history of stigma, discrimination, and trauma. We're interacting with settler services and lending to the degradation of our mental, spiritual, emotional well-being. Despite this, our people are leaning into the whispers of our ancestors and still continuing to return to our teachings. It's been so empowering and beautiful to witness this moment in which I have seen our Indigenous partners respond, and not just talking about this pandemic, but this moment of the culmination of over 500 years of oppression, disease, famine, loss of life, state violence, global climate crisis, and a health crisis all together. Instead of falling down,
A series of protest
we are seeing
posters.
our communities have Indigenous language classes and learners increase. Traditional medicine and food harvesting has become more reliable than grocery stores for some rural communities. And our people have asserted our own systems of governance to determine how our community responds to this crisis. And many of our leaders are encouraging our people to return to the land as protection and healing from this pandemic. All of this demonstrates the strength
empowerment
of
posters.
Indigenous systems and our resiliency in time of crisis. After all, I speak these words as a testament to the resiliency and strength of my ancestors. Despite centuries of attempted genocide, I am alive and I'm able to introduce myself in my language, and I can still hear those whispers of my ancestors in the wind. This pandemic has also highlighted the ability for society at large and the colonial government to quickly act and make drastic changes to the status quo of life as we know it. In months, countries have locked down millions of people. Air travel has been crippled. Conferences and meetings moved online. And life as we know it has drastically and fundamentally changed. The economic systems we have relied on are falling apart, and many people are actually looking to their communities and their neighbors to fill the gaps that capitalism has left. The impacts it has had on the global emissions is stark and noticeable. Imagine what would happen if we reacted to climate change and the systems that brought about climate change, like colonization, white supremacy, patriarchy, capitalism, consumerism. Imagine if we reacted in the same way that we reacted to this virus. I have seen communities of care emerge, met more neighbors and community members. I've seen our people stand proud in our culture and rights. I've witnessed the shift in consciousness as a species. Moreover, I've been witnessing more people listening. And I'm not just talking to TV and social media, but listening to each other. And some are even starting to hear the voices of the land calling us back to our origins and questioning the reality that we have bought into. It's time for us to take a hard look at the root causes of the global crises we are witnessing. During the last 2 years, my organization, Indigenous Climate Action, has been talking with communities about the climate crisis, and time again, we hear these words: colonialism, patriarchy, capitalism, white supremacy, extractivism. And for many of our communities, when we say climate change, they say it started when the white man appeared on our shores and changed everything about our world. Climate change happened when we were forced off of our lands, when our children were stolen, when our languages were forbidden, when our ceremonies were outlawed, and when we were told to stop listening to Mother Earth and start listening to the ways of greed. We must acknowledge that colonization isn't something that's happened. It continues to happen right now and shape the world. Systemic racism is real, and true change happens when we address these problems. And my organization is invested in dismantling this and empowering our communities to work towards true decolonization. And decolonization in its simplest form is the return of and connections to land. If we decolonized our minds, our environments, and our ways of being in the world, the opportunities become boundless. I'm not saying we go back to living like we did 500 years ago. I'm saying we uplift and acknowledge and recognize that pre-colonial systems were valid and allowed for flourishing economic, educational, and governance systems to exist for thousands of years. Our current structures are only hundreds of years old, and they have damaged the planet in ways our people could never imagine. Indigenous peoples, our cultures, our values, our languages, our knowledge connect us to the sacredness of Mother Earth. Our voices and solutions are critical to developing climate solutions, mitigation, and adaptation strategies that will benefit everyone. I would also be remiss if I didn't acknowledge what's been happening over the last few weeks. And thank you so much, Cyrus, for your really great explanation of what's going on. But as we witness the global uprising of Black people and the Black Lives Matter and Black liberation movements responding to the continued state murder of Black people, we have to remember the foundations of this continent are built off of the stolen land of Indigenous peoples and the stolen lives and labor of our Black relatives. And instead of appreciating us, we have been brutalized, criminalized, and murdered simply for existing. The liberation of our Black and Brown relatives revolutionizes our collective efforts for sovereignty and self-determination. Our efforts to end centuries of white supremacy and colonization require us to work together, and in this moment, we must support the lead and direction of our Black relatives. As BIPOC people, we are coming together to challenge these systems, advocating for Black lives, advocating for the planet, advocating for life. We are not protesters out in the streets. We are protectors of life. I have seen our people come out over and over again and be criminalized simply for trying to speak the words of our ancestors. I have seen that in any great undertaking, it is not enough for a man to depend simply on himself. We must come together and unite and listen to the voices of our relatives that have been muted for so long. The earth is calling us. Are we listening? I want to end with a prophecy that I learned from an Inuit elder in Alaska. Before the last ice age, the people of Turtle Island saw the changes on the land. They began to feel the changes and recognize that something of a true significance was happening. And it was told that an elder called for a great council to come together, and all the people would be invited to come together, and they'd have to drop their wars and disputes. And at this council, they would be sharing their stories, their techniques for survival, from harvesting and food preparation, from shelter and ceremonies. And they would do this because they recognized that despite their differences, they were a part of the same collective, and their survival was contingent on the survival of their neighboring communities. And survive we did. It was also said at this great council that it was prophesied that another great change of the land would come once again in the future, except it would be much worse and more drastic. And that at that time, once again, the people of the world would have to come together to share their stories, their strategies, their techniques for survival. We would have to abandon our wars and disputes and come together for the survival of the collective. And remember, the collective isn't just humanity. It's all of the animals. It's all of the life on this planet. Some say that we are in that time now, and we need to come together and we need to act now. Another world is possible. The question is, will you take the steps to make it happen? Merci Cho.
Two toddlers at a drum. Ariel smiles.
Thank you.
All 9 rectangles
Thank you, Ariel. This
become
was
the same
wonderful,
size.
very inspiring. And I'm so sorry we are not together with people and we can't reach out to each other, shake hands, you know, say like, I'm so happy you're here. But I want to take a few moments now. We're going to do a Q&A with people who are in the Zoom rooms, but we're going to do something a little different given our technological setup. So I'm going to ask all of the participants who are in your rooms to please grab a piece of paper, a pen and a piece of paper, and write your question on a piece of paper that you can then hold to the camera. And Ariel and I are going to take a look at these questions. You'll have 2 minutes. We're going to have, this is a symphony of questions, and we have a little bit of music to go with it. So we will watch and listen to this symphony for 2 minutes, and then we'll pick a few of the questions that Aaron can answer afterwards. We'll have about 2-3 questions that we can answer. So please get ready. Your facilitators in each of your room can help you if you need any help. And let's see what you would like to ask.
In the center of the 9 squares reads a symphony of questions composed by Matt Rogalski. In the rest of the 8 squares, everybody in the rectangles, everybody in the smaller rectangles pulls out pieces of paper, looks down. Several people are already holding up questions. Bottom right hand, what do you feel most connected to the earth? They are quite small, so I will read as best I can. Top left corner, when will sustainability and wellness be valued over GDP? On the right-hand side, how can we support Indigenous communities in response to Kennedy's Bill 1, quote, the protector law, end quote. Bottom center, how to remember that the impossible is possible. I'll just read them instead of saying where they are. What will our children think of our actions 20 years tomorrow? Solutions exist. How do we amplify the positive influence? Do you have any suggestions on how we can continue to shift towards a more environmental? I'm sorry, the rectangles keep changing, so I'm having trouble following some of them. Do you have any suggestions on how we can continue the shift towards more environmental ways that were onset by COVID-19, no flying, etc.? How do we resolve individual and collective rights, question mark? How do we enfranchise unheard human and non-human voices in the global climate negotiations,
It is live on both of us now. I guess it's our turn to answer the questions. So many questions.
So here are a few questions that I had time to jot down, but please feel free to, if you have some that you saw that grabbed you, feel free to answer them too. The ones that I have are, when will sustainability and wellness be valued over GDP? How do we amplify positive changes? And how do we remember that the impossible is possible?
Chantal is speaking right now.
Some light questions.
Yeah. Oh, here's another one. How do we feel most connected? When do you feel most connected to the earth? This is one directly for you.
I mean, I think that one's probably the easiest. For me, it's when I'm out on the land doing something, anything. Sometimes the best thing for me if I'm having a hard day is just to literally go for a walk. Going into my community also makes me feel the most connected. Yeah, as far as when will we shift GDP to include wellness and sustainability, there have been people working on that for over a decade. It's hard, you know, there's actually whole schools on that. You know, there's a really great group called CANSI. I don't remember what exactly, it's like ecological economics, but looking at how we can include like not just like ecological, like thinking of the earth is separate, but the interconnections between humanity. I don't know when we'll see that. I really do feel that COVID has really put a lot of questions into how our current systems are structured. And I'm hoping that we'll continue to see that critique as we like uncover ways of like getting back to normal, as a lot of people are trying to frame it, that we actually really, really evaluate what that means, like what does getting back to normal, and that we uphold systems of wellness. Because I know for my organization, like healthy employees and healthy staff and healthy communities is what we're trying to strive for. And without that, like we are going to continue to struggle to be out of balance. The other question was, oh God, I've already forgotten. Sustainability, wellness.
How do we amplify positive changes?
Positive changes, yes. So there's all sorts of really, really amazing work being done on amplifying solutions. You know, there's a really great show by one of my colleagues called Melina Labucon-Massimo called Power to the People. It's on APTN, and it talks about all these amazing solutions coming from Indigenous communities across Canada. I think, like, you know, we live in a social media world. It's just really amplifying that it's not just all doom and gloom. Like, I think a lot of our communities, despite like living with like inadequate resources, funding, housing, all of this stuff, we've seen some really, really amazing projects come out of Indigenous communities. Like, and that's like, this isn't just limited to Canada. Like, we've seen the resiliency of communities show up in Australia, in Africa, in Asia, in, you know, Latin America, where there's so many beautiful projects that are drawing on traditional knowledge and our understanding of the land and technologies and bringing about these incredible solutions that folks wouldn't have otherwise thought about. I think like looking for them and sharing them, but also recognizing that it's not just about sharing the stories, because like the reality that you have to dig and find them is a testament to the systems that we still live under. The institutional racism to continue to try to erase our stories still exists. I think more than amplifying stories, it's amplifying the story that we live under these systems of, you know, racism, white supremacy, capitalism. Like, we need to be sharing those and then countering them with those stories of positivity. Because if we only share the positive, we can forget about the things that are actually making it so hard to hear those stories.
And there was also a very specific question from somebody who teaches kids and is asking, what is the one thing I could teach kids?
I think, to be honest, a fundamental thing that I didn't realize how important it was for me until I was an adult and recognized that I was privileged to have this, was that all my relations, the understanding the relationship with the natural world, and that we are not just related in some like sort of woo-wee meta, like ooh, Indigenous people believe that we're related to everything. We are literally fundamentally, from like a scientific perspective, related to all life on planet Earth. And like we often forget those connections. But when you grow up with this understanding and respect that like every blade of grass and every bird in the tree and every animal is your relative, you have a different relationship with the natural world. It's something that is more, you have like this innate feeling and responsibility to your family. I often talk about like, so I think for me, like teachers and of young learners, teach them that they are a part of the natural world, teach them that they are related to everything on this planet. I really think it'll fundamentally change them. For me, when I'd been sort of disconnected from my land for many years because my parents divorced. I didn't go up to my territory for a while. And then when I went back there, it was like decimated by tar sands. But because of those foundations of understanding who I was and my relationship to the natural world, when I saw the destruction, it wasn't just like, oh my God, this is terrible. It was like one of the hardest moments for me because it was literally like seeing a family member like dead on the side of the road. I remember the moment like feeling like my chest was like someone was sitting on my chest and like tears came out of my eyes and I couldn't breathe. My ears were ringing because all I could see was all these places that I knew were my relatives, my ancestors, just destroyed like it was nothing. And imagine if we all connected to the land like that from small age, how we would not like allow these types of crazy, mindless, cannibalistic projects to exist on this planet.
And it's going to be interesting to see when you talk about relating, you know, caring for something. So much has changed with the COVID pandemic, where suddenly people can see the sky. The pollution has dropped down. I wonder if that's going to help sort of connect us to a sense of place and wanting to protect and keep something when it's suddenly cleaner.
I hope so. But again, it comes down to the fact that, like, yes, I also just want to say, like, I also don't want to be like, oh, we're all related, so therefore, you know, all lives matter and support these narratives, because like the reality is that we are all in the same, you know, on the same planet, but we haven't all been given the same advantages. And so we have to like think about and really question as like non-Indigenous, non-BIPOC folks, like where is our privilege playing out in this moment? How do we deconstruct our own complicity in these perpetuation of these systems of extractivism, of capitalism, of patriarchy, to ensure that we are moving forward in a way that is uplifting and changing the dynamics and moving towards real equity. And not, again, not just equity for people, but equity for the planet. And I really want to name that, because it can be really easy to fall into like, I feel really good, we're all related, the land is so beautiful, I'm going to protect this little spot over here. But if we don't challenge the systemic root causes that have got us to this place, we're doing very little to actually disrupt and dismantle these systems.
Mm-hmm. And I think we may have time for one more question. Somebody asked, what are some mitigation strategies that people who work in the theater could do or push forward?
I think creating more spaces for BIPOC voices and stories to emerge. I know there's been a lot of work being done. I mean, even this is a testament to that. But you know, we have a tendency there has been a history within the art world to have a lot of like other people expressing those stories and just allowing us to tell our own stories, and really trying to like, again, look at where our power, where our privilege, and how we can create the spaces to allow other people to come in. You know, when we talk about in the Black Lives Matter movement right now, there's the defund the police. And it's like, where does that money go to afterwards when we defund the police? Where do we start talking about a redistribution of wealth? Because that wealth has been stolen, you know, for years. We need to start talking about reparations within all sectors of society that have benefited off of the stolen land and the stolen labor and the stolen lives of BIPOC folks. And it's not just Black folks, not just Indigenous folks. This country has a history of discrimination against Chinese, Japanese, Islamophobic. Like, we have a history of deeply entrenched roots of racism and discrimination. And we need to start looking at how we, how systems and people in positions of power and privilege can contribute to reparations, a redistribution of wealth, and creating an equal playing field and making space in that boat. So we're not all just out in the storm willy-nilly.
Thank you, Ariel. And if people want more information, they can go to your website, right?
Yeah, you can check out for more information on supporting Indigenous climate solutions and strategies, including we're going to be launching some resources and tools with Indigenous climate action in the next couple of months or so. You can check us out at indigenousklimateaction.com. And we often host webinars. We're doing some Two-Spirit webinars coming up for Pride Month. So check us out in the next couple of weeks.
Thank you so much. We are already halfway through our program for today, so we're going to take a 5-minute pause because this is a long time sitting at a computer, so you can have a chance to stretch your legs, get a glass of water, use the bathroom. Please take this time to take care of your needs, if whatever you may need at this moment. You can also take this time to share your thoughts with other participants. You're welcome to talk among yourself in the Zoom room. You can also use the chat on the live stream. We'll have some music. We have some really great performances coming up afterwards. So we hope you'll stay with us. And it is now 6:01 Eastern time. So we will be back in 10 minutes. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back. For those of you just joining us, or for those of you who may not have seen me for a while, I'm Sarah Garton Stanley, and I'm the co-curator for the Green Rooms, along with Chantal Bilodeau. It's been so wonderful to spend this first bit of the afternoon, evening, or morning, depending on where you are, time together. Thank you so much for your time and the value of your time being spent with us. We really appreciate it in this grand experiment. And thank you so much for helping us build this conversation, a conversation that we hope can continue to build over the coming days, weeks, months, and years ahead. I am so looking forward to the second half. I'm going to disappear again, probably until the end, but I just wanted to say hello. It's really great to be here. And now I'm going to pass it over to Chantal Bilodeau.
Thank you, Sarah. I am Chantal Bilodeau, a co-curator of this event with Sarah. And welcome back to the Green Rooms. Now we're going to shift gear a little bit because we've been talking, of course, we're talking about climate change theater, all the things that are intersecting, but we also want to not just talk about it, but bring some performance and performers into this gathering. So I am very pleased to introduce you to Erin Ball, who is live from Kingston, Ontario. Erin is an extraordinary circus artist with a unique story, and she was inspired to create a performance specifically for us here in the Green Room. So here is Erin Ball.
Text on screen, Intertwined by Erin Ball.
Matter, Toronto. I hold a rope with both hands. My green dress is covered in vines. My mid-length red hair is in a side ponytail, and my skin is white. I climb the rope slowly to leave my legs standing below. They are mannequin legs with plants and vines flowing out of them from the top. My own legs end just below the knees. Wrapped on the rope, I remove my skirt. I swing my body upside down, knee hooked. Lower. Wrap other leg. I tend to the plants below. I push the legs away. Climb. I hang. Upside down. Climb. Swing. Higher. Legs wrapped. am upside down. I spin, crescent moon shape. Upright, arm wrapped. I hang by my elbow. I swing, spin. Split legs, bend and straighten. Scissor legs, rope around shoulders. Upright, I gaze. Quick roll forward, I hang hands free. Unwrap. Scissor legs. Climb. Strong arm hold. Knees hooked. Turn to the side. Arms hold rope. Knees hooked. Horseshoe shape. I swing upside down. Split leg behind back. Little leg slides through small space. Upside down, I wrap my leg, body weaved in front of rope. I pause. I wrap my legs upright. Quick drop to knees, upside down. I climb. Scissor legs. Swing, spin, upside down. Legs split. Quick sideways roll down. Near the bottom of the rope, I hang upside down. Gaze at legs. Unwrap. Descend and sit on ground. I gaze at the legs. Disclaimer. Rope is physically demanding and unpredictable. The descriptions are pre-recorded and may not match the timing. I support defunding the police and Black Lives Matter. If you like this piece, please donate to Black Lives Matter Toronto.
Thank you, Erin, for this amazing performance. Really, really amazing performance. And I just want to point out that we've been talking, Ariel actually talked about patriarchy, and we have just an amazing group of powerful women today. Yeah, as I see, because of course none of us have experienced this whole thing in its entirety. We've just been talking to people separately and seeing and talking about things separately, but seeing it all in a row, I'm really pleased to be able to share those women with you. So next is a youth climate activist, Aidan Tompkinson, also from Kingston, who is one of the organizers of the Fridays for Future events in Kingston, in Ontario. Some of the loudest voices demanding change over the past have been the voices of young people who are worried about their future, and for good reasons. Following in the footsteps of Swedish teen activist Greta Thunberg, who founded the Fridays for Future movement, youth around the world are making their voices heard and urging politicians to act now. And one of those young voices belongs to Aiden Tompkinson, who is going to tell us a little bit about what she's been doing.
Hi everyone, my name is Aiden Tompkinson and I am a youth activist and justice seeker. Now, some people's brains turn off when I say I'm a youth climate activist. I hear it all the time. Those climate activists who strike on Fridays are just trying to get out of school by following a recent trend. I'm going to ask you right now, if you did turn your brain off, turn it back on, because today I want to explain to you my perspective on being a youth climate activist. Today, I'm going to explain to you why I am involved in activism, how I got involved, and ways that you or people around you can get involved, and why it is ever so important that you do so. Ever since I was young, we have talked about how our Earth is suffering. I have fond memories when I was little and we'd be camping, and it was ingrained into me to always respect the nature around me. I have been fortunate to be raised in an environment that values both the earth and having respect for the things around me. As I have gotten older, I have seen more and more how this is not consistently the case for others. Sometimes I still find it shocking that others still do not understand the importance of respecting our earth. Much of the disrespect is not their own fault, but stems from a lack of awareness, education, and submersion into a mindful environment. I felt the need to increase people's awareness around the growing climate crisis so as to avoid the shocking unawareness that can be seen now. I want to plant the seed for people to take it upon themselves to defeat their ignorance towards the problem and educate and be aware of the problems that humanity is facing. Mindfulness and respect is everything. If you have not felt angry, saddened, or fearful by the direction of our world is heading, you are not educated enough. People need to become motivated to act, which is what I want to help people feel. I felt the need for several reasons. I feel deeply for those who are struggling and will struggle the most through the consequences of humanity's actions and crimes against our Earth. Our Indigenous communities in Canada who are suffering without safe drinking water, oil spills infringing on their territories, and Canada believing that they have a right to their grounds. Homeless populations who will be unprotected from the rash environmental disasters. Young and old who will be more at risk. Young babies and infants being born onto the sick earth without a say, and so many more vulnerable populations that there are too many to list. My heart sinks with the thought of people and animals of all kinds suffering due to humanity's own unforgivable mistakes. And yes, I say unforgivable because humans have known for decades upon decades that there was a need to protect our Earth. And yet, I still meet people who value themselves, money, and greed over our Earth, who should be everyone's #1 priority. Our Earth, home, Mother Nature, permits us to live on this Earth, and it is not the other way around. Without the Earth, humanity is nothing. Overall, I think the need to act was due to my empathetic nature for feeling for those who are suffering, my frustration with people for their lack of education, and my want to educate those around me. I have always known that there was a problem with our world. It wasn't until recent years that everyone around me also did not realize the gravity of the problem that humans are faced with. I found, especially in my hometown of Kingston, people were shielded from the severity of the climate crisis. We are very safe from the impacts of the climate crisis where we live, and we should be very grateful for that. But because of this, people are ignorant towards the communities who are struggling in the world, so in return, they have no motivation to act. I want to change this through educating people and making them mindful of issues that are ever so apparent in our world. Several years ago, I did this mostly through sharing important articles and news on my social media platforms and discussing important things with my friends and family. I was always actively educating myself so that I could educate the people around me. I soon realized that this was not enough. So I started striking from 10 to 2 in front of City Hall following the popular movement of Fridays for Future. Prior to COVID-19, myself and members of the community have been striking in Kingston for over a year. By doing so, I was able to make a stand for the fact that we care about the climate emergency. It allows us to have an open platform to educate people about the issues in the world and making personal connections with people. Speaking of connecting with people, through my activism, I have become involved in many groups such as 350 Kingston, Extinction Rebellion, and have participated in several other conferences and symposiums. In small steps, I became aware and able to develop connections and be able to talk to a bigger group of people like I am here today. I urge you to take the steps towards indulging in the necessary activism because we need everyone's skills. I have met some awesome people through the course of my activism. My fellow direct action activists, but also artists, healers, media workers, even politicians who are all fighting for a uniform cause. I am telling you this because I want to make it clear that you do not have to participate in huge rallies or put yourself way out there to act. Everyone is at their own comfort level within their activism, but that does not mean that we don't need your help. Through art, media, music, and maybe even methods that have yet to be invented, each one of us can become part of something bigger than ourselves. So today, I am not going to tell you to come out to the strikes or participate in any civil disobedience, but I do want to tell you to act in any way that you can. Able your already present bodied skills. If you have been thinking of doing something, please do not let anyone or anything stop you. We are so fortunate to live in a world full of endless resources, voices, and organizations. In conclusion, I cannot wait to see the rise in activism over these next couple of years and see the amount of people using their voices to spread the messages that need to be spread. I would love to speak to you if you have any questions or need an idea on how to start activism initiatives within your community. Seriously, I would love to hear from you. Communication is so important, which we've learned now especially. You can reach me through the Fridays for Future Kingston Instagram page or Facebook page. And that's it. Thank you so much for listening. I really do hope to hear from some of you.
She smiles broadly.
Thank you so much, Hayden. It's great to hear from you. I want to just come back for a second and say that we heard a disclaimer after Erin's performance earlier, and I should have mentioned that we were supposed to hear this disclaimer before her performance, but because of technical difficulties, it was moved to the end. Now, climate activism takes many forms, and we're going to hear a lot about that tomorrow. But for now, I would like to introduce you to Ariel Martz Oberlander, who is an artist and community organizer, who is going to talk about moving between professional theater and climate activist spaces. So welcome, Ariel.
Thank you, Chantal, so much. And thank you, Aiden. Wow. I just want to take a breath before I start my timer. Thank you to everyone who's spoken. So my name is Ariel, and I'm going to try and not talk too fast, but I couldn't cut down my notes anymore. So, and I can't see any of you yawning or getting bored, so I can do whatever I want. My name is Ariel, as I said. Shalom Aleichem, Bruchim Habaim. Ich bin a Yiddische Mädel von Am Yisrael. I'm currently coming to you from the occupied and stolen lands of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. My grandparents came to Turtle Island as refugees from Europe during a time when 2 full generations of my people were murdered in Europe and the Middle East. So my relationship to this land is complex. And if it weren't for the colonization of Canada, I don't know if I'd be alive. So I keep trying to work in a good way to live on this land in a way that honors that while acknowledging that I wasn't invited and I have a lot of work to do. I'm going to talk a little bit today about my work as a window into talking more about deconstructing the ideas of what we consider expert and professional. And I want to start by saying that I'm in no way an expert on anything I'm going to talk about, but I believe in the power of personal stories to open up the places where our experiences intersect. And I also want to offer the idea that we don't need to have shared experiences in order to fight for each other, and that I can accept that I don't understand what it's like to be you, but I can still be your accomplice. So I'm really still an emerging artist in most ways. I'm pretty young, thank goodness, But I hope that every room that I go into, I can help question ideas of what is a professional, who gets to talk, who gets to interrupt, and who is a real artist. I trained as an actor first, but at the same time, I was always kind of doing parallel work as a climate justice organizer. And even though I was in theater school, getting cast in things, I never really felt able to call myself an artist. I wasn't convinced that I had this thing that they talk about called talent. And I definitely didn't feel pretty enough to be in film and TV. But I was starting to do this work in community organizing that I felt was really meaningful. And I was learning how to listen deeply and act out of a place of justice. At first, I just went to meetings and I listened for months. And then I started to take on tasks and I felt useful. And then I was elected president of a campaign on campus. And most importantly, I was learning that what I had been taught about environmentalism actually needed to be a much deeper struggle for decolonization, anti-racism, and re-indigenization of the system. And after I graduated theater school, I wasn't sure I was a real artist at all. So I took 6 months off from the arts and I spent time at Unistoten camp during that fall. And Unistoten is a frontline settlement that is about 10 years old now. You've probably heard of it this year when the military went to invade the settlement to start building one of the many pipelines that is slated to go through that area. But this was some years before that. And I want to talk about an elder that I met there at Unistoten camp. There was an elder there named Brian Grandbois. And he was one of these really cool older gentlemen who was a lifelong warrior. He'd been at so many of the major struggles like Oka Crisis, Gustafson Lake, Elsa Pogtog, and he wore only camo always. And he used to ask me to ride in his car into town with him because if he had a young white woman with him, the cops were less likely to stop him. And that made me feel so special. Brian escaped going to residential schools as a kid because his grandparents hid him in the forest when the Indian agents came to take the children away. So he grew up with his culture and his language in the bush. And I was like, hiding children in the forest? Well, as a Jew, I have those stories in my families too. And the most beautiful thing that Brian told me was that in his language, Dene, Ariel, which is my name, is a word and it means thunder. And I think that's also Ariel Derange's, the meaning of her name too. So I feel a special connection. In my language, it means Lion of God. And I thought that was the most beautiful thing, that a word can exist in two languages from completely different places. And I hold that with me always. I feel really blessed by that gift. And Brian passed on last year. Since then, I've lived at or visited about 5 frontline camps, including helping to start a camp on the steps of BC Hydro headquarters, where we lived for 3 months to protest the Site C Dam and the flooding of the Peace River Valley in Treaty 8. And I was also a Know Your Rights trainer at the Watch House camp led by the Tsleil-Waututh Nation and Burnaby Mountain in 2018. But I want to be careful about how I talk about these front lines because I don't want to speak for them, and I really encourage you to look them up and learn directly from the people who have started them and who are living there. Since then, I have done a show in a bog, a performative flooding of Christy Clark's lawn, which was quickly surrounded by undercover RCMP, but it made the news, so that was a success. Shows at fringe festivals, in parks, in more traditional festivals and theaters, a show on a yacht, a touring show for one audience member at a time, which is a conversation about climate grief, which has taken place under a tree, at a conference, and other places, and many, many other shows that I don't have time to talk about. I'm running out of time, but I'm going to share my email in the chat, especially for any young people who want to talk about what my career has looked like or what might be possible, because it's all possible, and you're already an artist. And what I can do more and more is to marry my organizing work with my theater work, which I didn't think would be possible. And the work I make is very rooted in community well-being, audience care, trauma-informed processes, decolonization, uplifting youth voices, decentralizing access, etc. For the past 3 years, I have run the youth program at the Cultch in Vancouver, where I get to raise up young voices and give away resources to people who don't usually get them. And more than that, I get to help youth that I work with run their own programming and see themselves as artists and as agents within their own communities in new ways. When it comes down to it, what we don't need is more allies, we need accomplices. And to me, that means wherever I have privilege, I give it away. Wherever I have power or resources, I give it away. And I try to hold every door open behind me. Climate change, we know, doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's only possible because of systemic disenfranchisement and theft from Indigenous, Black, and disabled and queer bodies. So to me, every movement towards justice is also climate justice. And that's what I hope to do through my work as an artist and a community organizer. Thanks.
Chantal.
Thank you, Ariel. Thank you for making yourself so available. I'm sure some people will be happy to reach out to you. And I want to tell you that looking at you on a screen, you are definitely pretty enough to be in cinema, on film. So next, music can also be a form of activism. So the Toronto-based group LAL, which is known for making electronic music that puts community first, is going to be next. Rosina Kazi and Nicholas Murray have been holding down Canada's underground DIY music scene for decades. They started performing separately in hip hop and spoken word, and then came together as music and life partners. Lal works tirelessly to make the future that they envision a reality in the here and now. Here they are.
Projection behind them. It appears to be like a mirror screen of each other, but I'm unclear about what it is, possibly driving down an urban street.
Hello, I'm Rose and this is Nick, and we are Lal, and we're really grateful that you asked us to perform today. It's pretty heavy times, and I feel like many of us who come from different places have been dealing with these things for way longer, and so many of us have been preparing, but yet we're not completely prepared. So this is going out to everyone who's dealing with all kinds of shit, particularly those who are marginalized or racialized, dealing with different abilities, who may be sick, who may be dealing with mental health stuff. Shout out to the QT BIPOC community in Toronto and our friends. And yeah, so we're going to do a song called Dark Beings, and it's off our record called Dark Beings, and it's dedicated to Indigenous knowledge, it's dedicated to humanity and how we've sort of forgotten that knowledge, that we must reach back and put that back into our bodies, into our spirits, and not just into our words.
What we hate to create something new, to create something new, to create something new. If you add fire to the equation, and then you throw in the truth, and then you throw in the truth, throw in the truth, throw in the truth. We've been doing this shit for a while. We remembered we're proof. And as the sky comes falling down around, some still don't know what to do. Some still don't know what to do. Some still don't know what to do. Oh, yeah. vibrations, to vibrations, to vibrations in depth of the system, in depth of the system, dark beings, dark beings, dark beings, dark beings, we are dark beings, we are dark.
Rosanna steps close to the camera. She nods to the music, goes back to her microphone.
This goes out to all my black folks, my indigenous folks, my queer folks, my trans folks, my two-spirit folks. To those of us who have been held down, to those of us who are rising up, and this is the time, despite this COVID shit. We've been struggling way before that. This goes out to you, this goes out to my father, Hawk Kazi, Hawk Kazi, Hawk Kazi, Learn to cultivate all around us. Grown to cultivate all around us. Despite all the scars we have seen for centuries lined up, are we with the storm? 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 We are planted seeds in the ground. Inside us is goddess, I feel free, goddess, I feel free, goddess, I feel free. In the spirit of it all, maybe it's time we felt and we listen to vibrations, to vibrations, to vibrations, to vibrations, to vibrations, to vibrations. Dark beings, dark beings, dark beings, dark beings, to my mad and my crip folks, dark beings, to my black and my indigenous folks, dark beings, to my racialized folks, dark beings, to my people connected to the earth, dark beings, dark beings, Matemanush, shout out to you too. Happy Pride. Happy Pride. Bricks and glitter. Black lives matter. Not another black life. To all the activists, all the community organizers, thank you. All the people on the front line.
Thank you, Lal, Rose, and Nick. Thank you for this wonderful performance. At the beginning of the opening picnic today, which is this event, before we went live on the live stream, composer, sound artist, and musicologist Matt Rogalski, who is here with us working in the background so you can't see him, recorded the participant in our 8 cities saying hello in their own city-specific way. And then over the last 2.5 hours, Matt has been editing these sound files to compose the piece that you're about to hear, which is titled Hello Remix.
On-screen text, Hello Remix, compiled by Matt Rogalski.
Hi everyone. Hello from Vancouver. My name is Derek. I'm excited to be here.
Can we give it one more go? The whole world. Here we go. Can we give it one more go?
Big sky, water, big
Hi everyone, welcome. You are welcome. You are welcome.
Yeah, and are y'all comfortable with our images being used on social media? If you're not, you can just chat.
So there were
If I don't get a chat, I'll
Excited.
Thank you, Matt. I hope everybody enjoyed this. We're almost at the end of our time together for today, because we're going to be here again tomorrow and Friday. But before we wrap up, we have one more offering. The last 2 months have been challenging in so many ways, but it's been truly amazing to watch how an overwhelming number of us have risen to the occasion, often putting the well-being and safety of others above our own. And I have to say that in a world where there's so many reasons to despair, I find hope in this. I find hope in seeing that we can actually be there for each other. Tomorrow, we have a series of presentation and conversations scheduled where we'll have the opportunity to talk with several guests. But for now, we want to offer you a chance to breathe. So please sit comfortably, close your eyes if you'd like, take a deep breath. The next 10 minutes are for you. Enjoy One Breath, Many Bells by sound artist Debashish Sinha.
Text on screen fills the entire screen. One Breath, Many Bells, composed by Debashish Sinha. And the rectangles are back, Chantal and Sarah at center.
Well, beautiful. Thank you. I stretched at least 3 times through that. Beautiful music, beautiful work, everyone. Thank you for a fantastic time together. That's it for today. I want to thank everyone in all 8 of the portals, everyone who managed to make their way through the registration so that we could record all of the things.
Sarah looks at her screen, adjusts her
feeding back
headphones.
a little bit right at the end of the day. I just want to say thank you to Derek Chan, Murdoch Sean, Frank Donato, Tracy Guptill, Angelica Schwartz, Stuart Legier, Charles Douglas, and Molly Braverman. Amazing facilitators who have been in the rooms with all of you, making this, I hope, an experiment in collecting and then gathering into the larger groups. We hope you'll join us tomorrow between 3 and 7 Eastern Standard Time for a series of conversations. And again, tomorrow evening between 9 and 11 for another conversation. Cyrus Marcus Ware, he's going to be back to DJ it's going to be awesome. The schedule and all the links are available on the NAC website or at FOLDA. And there's a whole slew of programming happening tonight. It's been amazing spending this time with you. I want to pass it over to Chantal for one more moment just to say, Chantal, you were an incredible host. And it's been a pleasure making this work with you tonight. Thank you to everybody. Chantal, a few words.
Yeah, well, thank you, Sarah, for inviting me on this project and letting me be a part of it. Thank you to everybody who joined us. I'm very pleased to spend this time with you. I'm based in New York. New York started to reopen on Monday. So it's like, oh, maybe now we can get a little closer to each other. And this is a way to start this getting closer to each other. So I hope you will be with us tomorrow and on Friday. We have some exciting people coming to talk with us, and we hope you'll be there.
And one last thing to say, this is co-created together. So this is part of the work. We're going to keep working together. And on the last day, on Friday, we hope to make a special piece with all of you and all the new people who come and join us. So thanks again, and we will see you tomorrow.
See you soon.
A wave. On screen, text says, thanks for helping us create green rooms. See you soon. Thank you for coming to the opening day of FOLDA Festival. I'll be back online offering improvised audio description for the performance that Sarah indicated. That is Friday, June 12th at 2:30 Eastern Standard Time. Again, my name is Kat Germain, and I hope you'll join us for more events during the FOLDA Festival.